Hello everybody. It is a new MoonCat Monday, and we actually have a ton of stuff to discuss today. So it's kind of going to be divided into two parts where we're going to go over some news for MoonCats, and then we are going to spend a bunch of time talking about the JumpPort and how it works and how it relates to you, some of the most common questions that we've had on the Discord since the JumpPort launch. This is the longest MoonCat Monday presentation I think we've ever put together, but hopefully we will still be able to keep it to a dull roar and keep it to around 60 minutes. So, jumping into that part one, the news. And so this is kind of, some of this is going to be catch up, some of this is going to be new. Um, of course, just sort of a reminder for the acquisition conversations, people have noticed it's Q3, which is the earliest we noted we may have some news. Um, and of course, as we mentioned last time, it is probably unsurprising that the cooling of the financial markets have slowed some of these discussions down. We are sort of continuing to have these discussions. I can't say anything about them because they are under NDA, but do know that not everyone who has pitched to us has survived the current market. And of course, when I know, I will have news for you. But do know that things are continuing to percolate behind the scenes and that this is something that is still ongoing. Second thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about is marketing. And we sort of have these conversations every few months, but I do kind of want to explain to folks what has been going on, the sort of conversations that we've been having, the sort of results that we have been seeing. And so a marketing agency came to us with a project very similar to this. I don't remember if it was this exact one, but basically all weekend on the MoonCatRescue Twitter account, these were the promoted tweets. And it was incessant. Like all I saw in terms of promoted tweets was basically this Century Social Club. So on July 24th, I took these sort of two snapshots of what was going on so that people could see um, public sale of a mint of 0.125. And then I came into work on the 26th and was like, all right, how is this project going? It's going awesome. And in fact, we sort of looked through the conversations that were happening underneath sort of some of these promoted tweets. We noticed some concerning stuff, a lot of tweets that were very similar, a lot of PFPs that definitely didn't belong to the accounts that were purporting to own them. And then on July 29th, when we went to finalize this presentation, to nobody's surprise, the entire account had been deleted because it was a spectacular failure. So, um, that is sort of where we start to have some hesitation in terms of a lot of people ask us, when are we going to market? This is the sort of marketing that a lot of Web3 and NFT agencies come to us with, and we just see it's not working. So, that being said, I did kind of want to go over what has been going on behind the scenes over the last few months. We have been chatting with a few marketing agencies, and we have secured one which does not have a massive retainer. Huzzah. Um, they are also looking at ways to market that aren't buy a bunch of Discord and Twitter followers and then nope out of a mint. And so that is nice because it is extremely rare to find that in the Web3 space. You may see us do some condomini trial balloons before we do MoonCat content, just so you know. If you see condomini stuff coming down the line, it isn't that we like condominis more than MoonCats, but it is a good place to trial some of the things that we're going to be doing. Um, Also, numerous influencer Twitter accounts have reached out, and we definitely have concerns about paying for these sort of promotions in terms of perception, value, and sustainability. And basically, this can be summed up in three main points. In the downturn market, prices seem to have gone up. That is sort of a big red flag for us. And even though these, influencer Twitter accounts seem to be getting tons of engagement, when we start to look at the engagement, all of a sudden you start to see some of the stuff that I highlighted in the slide a couple points back, where it feels like the same message from accounts that definitely do not own the NFTs they have as their PFPs. Um, the other sort of concern that we have, while no marketing is guaranteed results, most of these influencers can't or honestly won't supply basic metrics like a click through. Um, it doesn't even need any sort of special thing that is part of your Twitter analytics as an account. And so the fact that people are not willing to tell us this also feels like very big red flags. And of course, when we start to look at the existing content that they've put out there, we start to sort of look at the replies, and they are either dead or heavily botted, and there doesn't seem to be anything between those two. And so, our open ended question to sort of the Mooncats community as a whole is, does the Mooncats community continue to feel this sort of influencer marketing is not valuable? Um, we do check in with you guys every few months in terms of feedback on this, and I probably will do a MoonCat owner tag just to make sure that people have seen this. Um, we want to know your thoughts. So, cat owners only is handy if you have the cat owners only role. Otherwise, drop that in MoonCat Monday. That being said, there is other marketing that we are engaging in, and one thing in particular that we're pretty excited for is the upcoming video series. So we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but we have been working with a production marketing house to create some short MoonCat videos. Um, these sort of short videos will primarily cover the history of the project, um, and that is a mix of where it has been and where it is going. Mooncats are always going to be more complex than a modern NFT. You know, as something that was created in 2017 with really only a couple of other projects like it to base the model off of, there isn't like a strict standard. If you look at this Mooncat, it is ranking 357. That is not the way our project works. And so you do need to do some research before sort of jumping in. That being said, we definitely hear the community feedback and agree that we want to break down some of those barriers for introduction. So some of the things that has been happening is we did select a voice actor, and that was a fun process. It definitely took a few tries, and we are going to have to go through a couple of revisions with them because we have already gotten their first pass through the video and discovered there are some words that they did not pronounce correctly. And so this is kind of going to be a back and forth in terms of 100% nailing down that narrative. We are also finalizing the storyboarding that is going to go with that voice acting. We want to make sure that it is representative of Mooncats as a collection and not just specific Mooncats that the team holds. And of course, there is going to be a preview coming down the line for Genesis owners and Mooncat owners when it is available. So if you have not tagged up into the Mooncat owner role, Collab Join is going to be the way to get that. We can't hand out that role manually at the moment because it is automated, and if we give it to you, the bot will just take it away. That being said, the Genesis owner's role is a manual process, and I think I have gone through and flagged everyone that I know that definitely owns a Genesis. If you are a Genesis owner and do not have the role, give me and Ty a ping, and we will get you set up. Any questions about marketing, the video series, and some of the things that we have coming down the line?
Looks okay.
Cool. Gave me a chance to get a drink as well. All right. Next thing in terms of marketing is this is going to be a refresher for a lot of folks. We've sort of had some of these conversations before, but just to put it somewhere that it is all together and so that people understand where we're at in terms of community engagement. When we look at the way successful projects do marketing, It is community members, a lot of paid followers, and a lot of influencers creating temporary pump bubbles. And the thing that we have discovered over the last 4 months is marketing agencies are terrible to communicate with. None of them answer your emails. It is very frustrating. Um, because when we come to them and say, we want to do some marketing, and they go, great, we have these shillers, influencers, and this is how much our bot army costs. Oh, and by the way, give us like 10 Mooncats for giveaways. We come back to them with, what else do you have that you can do? And we get a lot of radio silence, which is very frustrating. We just don't see Mooncats having successful marketing in the way that newer projects do. Also, we don't have the money. Um, that being said, when we look at the way successful projects do marketing, it is community members followed by paid followings and influencers creating temporary bubbles. Mooncats, because of our community, have really held a floor in the way that most of these pumpy projects haven't during the downturn. And while we are very much for over floor, um, we definitely want to give a shout out to the amazing rock solid community who has recognized the unique historical significance of Mooncats. Um, I love seeing all of you flex your licensing rates, and of course, you are backed by the top tier development team at Ponderware. Woohoo! Pat myself on the back. All right. That being said, there are nearly 16,000 Discord users in the Mooncat server. 1,000 of those members with the Mooncat owners tag. If even half of the people that had the Mooncat owners tag retweeted just one tweet per week or wrote their own tweet with the hashtag Mooncats, it would massively increase our reach. I know there's quite a few of you that are out there every day tweeting about Mooncats. Know that I see you and know that this is not targeted at you. There are a lot of people in the community who are basically when pump and never say anything about Mooncats. I want you to all feel empowered and engaged to go out and spread the word of Mooncats. If there is something that you need to do that, tell us, because we will be happy to sort of get behind those ideas wherever it makes sense. Tweeting about Mooncats is fast and free. And so, anytime someone asks about marketing, this is something that everybody in the community can do, and it takes almost no time. All right, I had to take a drink of water. On that note, some things that we have been announcing on Twitter has been a couple of collabs. And again, this is going to be retread for some of our oldest community members. But if you are newer to Mooncats, with the market back in upswing, we are seeing a considerable rise in requests for collaborations with Mooncats. And the way we sort of view these collaborations is, does this enrich the value of owning a Mooncat? And that is definitely a pretty high bar that we set. A lot of projects come to us and are just like, we want your community to grind for waitlist spots. And that is like, nope, that's fine. If there is a project that anybody in the community is interested in, if they are a developer or an artist or a community manager behind it that you would like to see a collaboration with, for example, an accessory crossover, Mooncat integration, we are always happy to have those conversations. Currently, based on community sentiment, we are turning away almost all sort of allow list, whitelist, giveaways, grinding. Just because most of the time when we hear from the community, there isn't a particular interest in these. I know for a large majority of you, Mooncats is a historical project. Historical projects are what you are the most interested in, and stuff that comes out in 2022 just may not hold your attention in the same way. And that's cool. We are trying to respect that while still giving you opportunities to utilize your Mooncat and be a proud Mooncat owner. Um, One of the big reasons we have been turning away a lot in the past, I would say about 6 weeks, is this grind for your whitelist spot model has like crazily reared back up. And if you're coming to us with a whitelist proposition, it should just be you own a Mooncat and you're in. And so know that we are receiving a lot of these offers. A lot of them are being turned away. But there's two we didn't turn away. And we did announce both of these on Twitter, but in case you missed them, the first one is Kaiju Legends, where you are able to play their allow list game as a Mooncat. So this is a Mooncat that was designed by the Kaiju Legends team. It is based off of one of the Mooncats that someone on their team holds. The art for the Kaiju Legends collection is by Pixel Kaiju. They're not actually kaijus, which very much confused me at the start. So if you're confused, now you know why. Kaiju Legends by Pixel Kaiju. The one thing that they have that is kind of cool is they're going to have an upcoming game, an arena. They have a community-driven charity funding that part of their minting will go towards. And if you want, you can play as a Mooncat and win an allow list. So it's a fun little silly game, and you can actually see how this works. Bless Tusk for doing this adorable little video for us. I was just like so bad at this game that my video was gonna work. All right. The other collab that we announced on Twitter was the Defimons. This is an upcoming Pokemon style game that will be integrating Mooncats. The coat of the Mooncat inspired Defimon will rotate depending on the moves that are used in combat. This is actually the first time that an integration is representing the full array of cold patterns rather than being modeled after a specific Mooncat. That being said, the project does own Mooncat. It's 10675 if you want to check it out. And so the way that this is going to work is as you're playing the Defimons, you must have a Mooncat in your wallet to activate a unique quest. We are chatting with them regarding ownership in your wallet versus JumpPort ownership. The beta for the Defimons is open now, and we will announce when the quest is ready for Mooncat owners to grab their Defimon. Any questions about collaborations before I continue?
We'll give it a second while people type here. But G-Tech out the door says he heard about Mooncats from CurioCat or from Curio Card Discord. And just a quick shout out to Curio Cards. We did a quick spaces with them. Love Curio. Great team.
Yeah, Crypto Lurker and I chat, oh my gosh, almost every day at this point. So Curio Cards is very fun.
I just wanted to clarify one of the fun things for this Defimon or Defimon piece on that, the way that they're, to clarify that final bullet point there of that they're intending this monster that's inspired by the Mooncats to appear in the world, but only if you are a Mooncat owner. So it'll be an interesting mechanic of it's not necessarily going to be airdropped or just available for purchase to have, but just that if you are a Mooncat owner, from what they've described so far, if I'm understanding correctly, their intent is as you wander around their world and capturing different Defimons, there's the possibility of this Mooncat-inspired one only if you are a Mooncat holder at the time.
We're covering you in Mooncat pheromones, and you kind of go forth and you find a new Mooncat. I think we're probably good to move on, and we can always come back. VidPet just jumped in and said, I understand the concerns related to paid shills and pump and dump marketing. However, where I see a big opportunity is partnering with an established, well-known non-NFT brand. For example, the Tiffany's Punk collab that we just saw.
Yep, and we are 100% open to those. We did have an initial contact with Puma, although it sounds like they are pretty busy with other existing Web3 partnerships. But we are always keeping our ears to the ground. There are definitely some brands that we would love to work with that we have tried to do some reach out to. That is going to continue. But the more feedback we have from the community members, the more we know where to aim that sort of collaboration intention. So if people have specific things that come to their mind of Mooncats and X should get together and do a thing, let us know.
All right, cool.
All right, and now we jump into the giant second half of the presentation, which is the JumpPort and GravBall. And so I pulled together some of the conversations that have been happening over the last week, some input from the moderating team, and hopefully this will cover everything, although we will have a time near the end for additional Q&A. So if something comes up that isn't addressed while I go through these slides, hang on to it. We will get to questions. All right. So the JumpPort is our staking contract. The JumpPort is live and Mooncats are being deposited. The source code is verified and on Etherscan for those who want to do a deep dive. That link is pinned in the GraphBall and Lootprints channel. Sales now arrive in the GraphBall and Lootprints channel as well. Based on community feedback, I did remove the listings for now. I may end up finding a new home for them. We will see what sort of activity the collection has before we make any decisions. As sort of mentioned a couple of weeks ago, initially you will not have visible control or access to your NFTs. For those of you that have Starcade Fighters, you have already experienced this with Liquid Lands. That being said, we have had some initial conversations with sort of working all of the games and metaverses that Mooncats work with to ensure even if you're staked into the JumpPort, you still have access of your assets that these platforms can read. Although I will sort of preface this with, this will probably be an ongoing behind the scenes sort of work where there will be no visible progress or no updates until all of a sudden, surprise, everything is working. And so we appreciate everybody's patience while we get all of these details worked out with each integration. We have already had quite a number of these discussions and people knew this was coming. And so now that it is live, we are again revisiting those discussions and making sure that whatever we need to create for these sort of projects to see that you have a Mooncat, it's just not in your wallet, but it is still yours, that works. Also, as a general reminder, if you know a project that would be interested in using the JumpPort to stake into something, feel free to reach out to the team because we are actively looking for projects to collaborate with.
Yeah, and just to clarify there, if you're to think about what would qualify, part of the JumpPort, as Ponderware does, we designed the JumpPort as a platform, similar to how we designed the accessories infrastructure as a whole boutique store, and not just needing accessories to come from Ponderware. The JumpPort is designed to support any ERC 721, with the idea that it can be one single central contract that then can add quote unquote staking functionality to any ERC 721. So that idea of any project that would be interested, any project that uses ERC 721 as a base, and actually even a partial implementation of ERC 721 would be enough, mainly just the transferring functions, is enough to be able to then use that asset in the JumpPort. And that's part of these discussions that we're having with other places. Right now, it's very hard if each community, each project has its own staking location and its own method of doing staking. Then in order for different apps to support multiple collections like Liquid Lands or like Web3 or World Wide Web, they would need to be doing a lot of custom work. And we're trying to help that situation by, if all the projects are in the JumpPort, then projects would only need to integrate once to the JumpPort to know how the JumpPort works, and then they get access to all the projects that are in there. So projects that might be interested in the JumpPort, anything that's ERC 721 supporting could qualify. Basically, any project that doesn't already have staking of their own, or are interested in being in sort of a pooled staking area, and to be able to all be represented as a group of projects in things like Liquid Lands or World Wide Web, would be ones we'd want to talk to.
So next, we're going to talk a little bit about portals. So portals move Mooncats to new experiences. This includes games like Grav Ball. And then, do you want to talk about the rewards potential, Midnight?
Sure. Right. Yeah, the potential for rewards is mainly is back to that idea of portals. Plural is what we're talking about. I kind of just referenced that the idea of the JumpPort structure is there is one JumpPort that could support many projects, and then the idea is off of that one JumpPort there will be multiple portals. Each portal can do individual logic that they would like. This allows applications or projects to be made in a very modular manner, that you could have one portal do one very specific thing, another portal do another very specific thing. And as the Ponderware team is looking at what portals we can be making for within our ecosystem, entry into GravBall can be one portal. Things that the community has asked for, like looking into the potential for a staking reward, could be in there. Doing other things of projecting onto other blockchains could be used within other portals. It's also the potential for other development teams to create things for Mooncats. Ponderware does have the governance control of the JumpPort and allows signing in of whether a separate contract is allowed to be a portal or not. If someone else decided they wanted to reward Mooncat holders in some way, they could create their own portal, and then could be linked into this programmatic infrastructure. The idea of the JumpPort being a smart contract in control of the NFT allows for a lot of flexibility for for lots of different things that if people want to build now can. So yes, there's the potential for the portals to be numerous, vetted by Ponderware and added in. Ponderware itself is looking for several as we're kicking things off here.
Yeah, and I think the one that in particular I wanted to talk about today is I know people have expressed interest in doing more novel things with accessories. For example, buying an accessory on behalf of someone or gifting accessories to a Mooncat not in your possession. That being said, we do want it to be sort of an opt in thing. Um, so we are really looking at things like wish lists and or block lists and or paying in alternative tokens. But we want you to ultimately be in control of the accessories that your Mooncat receives. Because some of you don't want accessories on your Mooncat at all. We don't want anybody to wake up and discover that someone has dumped a bunch of adult rated accessories onto their Mooncats. No surprise, a go, please. And so that was the first adult rated accessory on the Mooncats boutique for those who are like, I don't get it. But yeah, as Midnight has pointed out, we really feel like the applications for this are endless. We are definitely looking at ways to cross pollinate with other JumpPort eligible projects. For us in particular, at the moment, doing these cross collab accessories is a fair bit of work. We have to do snapshots and create allow lists, and there's like 16 steps that go into making all of these collab projects. We definitely want to make that process a lot more streamlined so that we can do those more easily. The other thing that we're definitely looking at in terms of portals is moving into L2 securely with untransferable tokens to ensure original ownership. And Midnight, do you want to kind of dive into that? Because
Sure.
I'm very bad at explaining it.
So one of the key things that we built into the JumpPort as a core tenant is that once an asset, either a Mooncat or any other project that wishes to use it, when an NFT goes in, the only way it goes back out is to the same owner. And that's the idea of adding in that security of in theory, the worst that a attacker could do is if they trick you into signing a transaction you weren't expecting. If it's a withdraw from the JumpPort transaction, it would go to your wallet and you'd still have your asset. The worst thing that could happen is you might have been forcefully ejected from a GravBall game, sort of a thing, but you still have your asset. A lot of the bridge, or when talking about L2s, the nomenclature that has come out recently has been bridge, the idea that you bridge something from an L1 to an L2. And what that usually looks like on the technical side is on L1, on the Ethereum mainnet, you put your asset in some sort of a lockbox. And then it recognizes, hey, it is indeed locked on L1. And so now on L2, you now have the asset. And some implementations of what you actually do with the L2, or what you do with the asset on the L2, might be to sell it or to move it to another ownership. And then in theory, if the person wants to move it back from L2 to L1, they do the same process in reverse, lock it on the L2 so they can unlock it on L1, but now it's a new owner. That's nice for flexibility, but it has led to several hacks of then, because the lockbox on L1 has a bunch of assets in it, and if an attacker could trick the mainnet function into saying, oh yes, I am now the real owner because so-and-so did something on L2, even if that is fake, they could then raid the real asset out of the L1. So we wanted to make sure that was as minimal a possibility as possible with the JumpPort idea. And so we locked it into the idea that the JumpPort can only ever bring your asset back to you. That then allows us to do some things of the representation when we say, oh yes, here this Mooncat is in the JumpPort. The L2 can trust it is staying in the JumpPort because we have the option to lock it until the requirements for whatever the L2 is are met. Then you can actually have it be in multiple L2s, because there's no idea to sell it on one of the L2s so now it's actually owned by someone else. It's really always going to stay as the same ownership. And again, the intention for all these are for applications where you as the owner are using your Mooncat, not necessarily trying to move it to an L2 for a different marketplace to sell it or have it change ownership. So the idea for the representation of the Mooncats on the L2 being untransferable, meaning not transferable to any asset or any address that is technically changing ownership. We'd likely have some ideas of you could then stake it into some sort of an application, as long as that other application on the L2 allows going right back to your ownership. But that idea of you could then be doing multiple things at once, because the different L2s then don't need to talk to each other if there's a baseline trust that they're always all coming back to the same owner. Did that sound clear enough to you, Pause, or make sense?
I think so, but let's throw it out to everybody else. Do people have questions about the portals?
So, Ethord, I think we touched on this lightly, but Ethord asks, sorry if this is a dumb question. JumpPort is sending Mooncats and other ERC 721s to a layer 2, correct? If so, which layer 2? Well, it's more of a lockbox mechanism, and the answer is it could technically interact with multiple layer 2s. There's no discrete layer 2 it's sending to.
Yep. And at this point, it is not doing any of them. We are looking at several, and that comes back to the idea of the infrastructure we're making is ponder where it could, and is looking at the possibility of making multiple portals, one per L2, so we could have the Polygon portal, we can have the Phantom portal, we can have the Arbitrum portal, and ways that once a Mooncat is in the JumpPort, that you as owner could tick an action on each of those portals, and then now have a representation of your Mooncat on all three L2s at once. That if we decide that Gravball is best suited on Arbitrum, for example, that then it can be playing in a Gravball game, as well as if, let's see, Zudao was looking at Phantom, or some of the other applications were looking at different other chains. If those work out that you wish to be participating over there, and it works with the Gravball with the JumpPort idea of always maintaining ownership, you could then be doing multiple things with your Mooncat on multiple L2s all at the same time.
Yeah,
and that's the goal. Yeah, it's not doing it right now. It's starting with, this is the first step along that path, being a lockbox, which other L2s can trust that the asset is indeed locked or present in it. Yep.
And I think you, Ethor, just following up, I think you just heard Midnight mention Arbitrum as a potential candidate. That is not locked in, but you heard it there first. So.
Yep.
Yeah, we're looking at Matic, Phantom, Arbitrum, and Wax. And none of those we have specific dates for, just those are the L2s that we have received requests for Mooncats to be compatible with, and we will be investigating.
Yep. And that's also, part of the other idea of like the beta of GravBall or the first iteration of it might be on one of the L2s, and this infrastructure of having different portals would give us more flexibility to then, based on feedback, decide that actually we want to do a different L2 for the final version of the game. That a lot of the contracts, all the contracts that Ponderware has created are in a manner that are not upgradable. Some other projects work off of what's called a proxy contracts or other ways where the logic can change. This structure of the with the JumpPort with portals falls the idea of, if we have hopefully now designed the JumpPort in a rock solid way that it can be just a core piece that doesn't change, we can now make a whole bunch of different portals. And if we decide we want additional logic for a different portal, creating a new portal that looks back to the main JumpPort is an easy way to make like a version 2 of a portal and change up the logic of how the portal acts without you users needing to change where your assets are. They stay in the same JumpPort. So this is the way we can continue to iterate without needing to change contracts around a lot, and also not needing to use a proxy contract.
Yeah. So the JumpPort itself is pretty immutable, but the idea is portals will be flexible.
We can iterate rapidly with portals, and again, keeping the idea of do a few small things, and they can add together into much more complex infrastructures.
Lasagna Fun kind of makes a metaphor, not necessarily a bridge, but making your cat multidimensional. Exactly. And regarding these untransferable tokens, my understanding, Lasagna Fund, is trading transferring can only happen on mainnet ETH. You're right. Do I have that right?
Correct.
Yes.
Because, we sort of look at the way that other projects have been handling sort of like putting your thing in a thing or moving your L1 onto an L2 and then back again. And the thing that we're discovering pretty quickly is there is massive user error that are going on in those spaces just because this concept is really new. And so if we can put some real basic guardrails on that, just to sort of prevent the most common user errors, which is I sell my MoonCat on Matic and oh no, now I can't get my MoonCat back on L1. We're gonna bake that into the portal. And down the line, if that is a safeguard that is no longer necessary, we can always change the portal. Does that make sense when I explain it that way?
Yeah. Yep. Ethord wraps up and just says, just FYI, my experience with Arbitrum has been horrendous. Optimism has been smooth, and props to ZK Sync for probably a good solution, but could be difficult for GravBall. Yeah, thanks, Ethord. That's helpful.
And we are forever taking feedback on this because there may end up being GravBall games on multiple L2s just if we have people that are like, Wax is amazing and I hate Matic, and you have someone else that's like, all my experiences on Matic are terrible, please do Arbitrum. We definitely want to leave the door open for experimentation in terms of L2s.
Yeah, definitely let us know positive and negative experiences on them. Sure. I know myself as the developer of watching, Optimism specifically has recently done like their op token drop, that there's been a lot of focus on it and therefore a lot of improvement and refining on the op ecosystem because they did their drop. Arbitrum is gearing up they had an Arbitrum Odyssey, I think was their idea, that they started but then paused, I think was the last time I checked in on that. So like those sorts of things where there is kind of a concerted effort to bring attention to a specific L2 might help advance the ecosystem of those L2s. And so yes, I've been keeping an eye on those to kind of tell if those are helping mature those ecosystems as well. So if you are interested in those and have experience with those, or as a user have experience with them, definitely chime in and let us know positives and negatives user experience too.
Awesome. I think we're good to move on.
All right. We also wanted to cover some of the potential JumpPort benefits that are coming down the line. And so the question that we are seeing a lot in the Discord is, well, there is now a running clock. What kind of plans does Ponderware have for early JumpPorters? And the answer to that is sort of dual layered. We are keeping track of how long a MoonCat is inside the JumpPort. And this history is maintained even when a MoonCat departs the JumpPort, if it changes ownership, if it moves wallets. That history stays with a MoonCat, not with the owner. Um, Starcade fighters in the JumpPort at the moment are now beginning to earn skills in their sort of system, the arena system, which is taunt styles and combos. And we are definitely keeping a close eye on their adoption and their balancing for possible future Grav Ball equivalents. Um, so the other thing that we want people to keep in mind is anybody can actually create a reward based on JumpPort time accrual. During the beta phase, we are not announcing any specific rewards. And just to be clear, that doesn't mean there won't be any awards. Wink, wink.
Yep, and this reflects back to the idea of, yes, we're looking for other projects or other people can create portals that could do what they want within the system. And yeah, the key thing, the jump port on its own, in terms of metadata, it presents an on-chain reference of how long has token X been in the jump port. And so that's a base piece of metadata that any contract, if it wishes to say that matters, say, oh wait, is MoonCat 1000 in the jump port? If so, how long have they been there? And then do something based on that. That is a core piece of jump port that's already there and available. And the intention is, yeah, the portals will refine that. But also, if that core piece of how long have they been there seems like an interesting metric that you want to utilize, or you know of a project that might be interested in it, yes, that piece of metadata is there to be used at the moment.
And so I know that I'm going to be referencing Starcade a lot during this presentation. And so the one thing that I want to make sure that everybody understands is Mooncats may not be the first in terms of things that are going on in the jump port, but Mooncats benefit from the experimentation that other projects do inside of the jump port. Helping us kick the tires for JumpPort, staking in your Mooncats is immensely helpful, but not mandatory. And we want people to understand that. There is definitely questions in terms of the JumpPort features and utility. If you're not comfortable using it right now, that is 100% fine. We never want people to feel like they are forced to use this. The cool thing about the JumpPort is, unlike Web 2, we are able to release applications and experiences for the JumpPort in pieces. And do you want to kind of dive into that a little bit, Midnight?
Sure, that fits with the idea of having a development style of each smart contract having a smaller, discrete unit of work that it's doing allows us to, as kind of the metaphor goes, Lego together or jigsaw puzzle multiple contracts into one whole. But then each jigsaw puzzle piece can be released as soon as we're ready to say, like, this piece is, the logic is, quote, set in stone or set in a block. We can release that. Now, and it's not, we've talked about like a beta version of GravBall, and we're still pre that this is, whether you want to call it an alpha GravBall or even, it's not even the game part of it yet. It's just the locking part of it. You would never see, like in traditional software development, someone releasing the first version of the game, that's an application you install in Windows and you launch the game and it lets you log in and then does nothing other than let you log in and verify that, oh, indeed you are here. That's technically what we did here. Of the jump port is the ability to be present, to actually have a proof that you are here. And indeed, now we're building on top of that, which is unique for the Web3 space. The reason why it's helpful within the V3 or within the Web3 space is now both Ponderware can be working in parallel on the things that are the ideas that it wants to be working on, GraphBall sorts of things, accessory sorts of things, and we can be having the conversations in parallel with other worlds, other metaverses, to be able to say, oh, look, this already exists. Do you want to be working on it as well? So we can start working in parallel sooner. If we were to wait like all the way until we had the working beta version of the game available, that would be even slower and have a lot longer to see a result for it. And so this is unique in the Web3 space, that we can release these parts before, that they are working parts with a specific purpose, and they will eventually work together into a larger whole.
continuing the Q&A, gonna jump into, no pun intended, gonna JumpPort into some of the questions that we have been seeing on the Discord. So one thing that we hear a lot, and you've probably guesstimated this from some of the conversations that we've had over the last half an hour, the number of teams that have approached Ponderware about using this so far have only been a couple, but that is mostly because we have been soliciting interest in using it only now that it's been up and running. And sort of as a corollary to that, there has been some questions about how many projects will be JumpPort activated by the end of the year. We haven't settled on a specific number, but if it is a MoonCats integration, we have had some level of conversation about the JumpPort and how these projects can continue to read the MoonCats as yours, even while they're staked in. Anything that we've announced that the integration isn't ready yet has been apprised that they need to be compatible with JumpPort in some fashion. Can a MoonCat be active in multiple L2s at the same time? For example, Polygon, Arbitrum, etc. And yes, we are designing the JumpPort to interact with applications on multiple L2s, providing that each app guarantees MoonCat owners doesn't change. And we have sort of called this projecting in the past to differentiate it from bridging. And so if you hear us using that term projecting, this is what we mean, where you will have an untransferable MoonCat token on these L2s. You will be able to participate in activities with the exception of selling or transferring your MoonCat.
So projecting in the sense of like referencing astral projection, and kind of referencing that same idea of multiversal beings. Yes, while they are in the JumpPort, they have the capability to then astrally walk to multiple other places at the same time.
All I can think about is the Doctor Strange movie, but I won't spoil it. No spoilers. All right. Additional questions that we have been seeing. Is the JumpPort code open source or is it proprietary code? And Midnight, I'm going to have you tackle this.
Sure. I think the term open source usually relates a lot to the Web 2 space. And so when you're talking about within the Web 3 space, you need to differentiate the smart contract versus the UI pieces of it. So I guess if the person who is asking those sort of questions is interested in the contract itself, yes, it's available to be viewed. But unlike like traditional Web 2 open source projects, because it's a smart contract that's deployed on the blockchain, it's not changing anymore. Whereas many Web 2 like open source projects, the reason why you're interested if they're open source is if they're open to contributions from the community. And no, it's a contract; it's already deployed, and so there is the source code is released, and Ponderware has released all of its, or has marked that all of the Solidity code that it has deployed to the blockchain is AGPL 3.0, which is reusable and remodifiable by someone who wishes to make a derivative. So if you wish to, the code is there on Etherscan. If you wish to copy it and deploy your own JumpPort or tweak it and decide that you want to do it slightly differently and launch your own JumpPort idea. However, the intent of it and what Ponderware is going to be doing is because it is the idea of a platform that will be encouraging the use of the one deployed smart contract. The UI that Ponderware has been creating for the MoonCats interface to it is proprietary at the moment. It is just as HTML and JavaScript is in your browser. You can view it if you're interested in how we're doing it. Piece there, but that one is an internal project that we've been maintaining to continue the development there.
All right. And of course, Ponderware does currently hold the governance for the JumpPort. That governance is intended to grow once additional projects come in. We may sometimes refer to this as a DAO, and I believe we have said on the Discord the DAO contract is already written. But unlike a lot of DAOs, it will be representative of the projects in it rather than individuals, as most DAOs are currently. So we may sometimes shy away from using the term DAO just because It does not truly encompass what the governance of the jump portal is, but if we do use it, know that that is how we're using it.
Right. Of a DAO, that first D in the DAO being decentralized, which often implies certain things like anonymity and like relying more on the code sort of things rather than human trust. Whereas a lot of what the JumpPort has been doing is Ponderware forming relationships with other projects. And so the governance piece of it there would be done by groups that are trusting of each other, that are known to each other as a B2B sort of a relationship. So looking at different ways to ensure that the projects that are part of the JumpPort can have a say in it alongside Ponderware in how the JumpPort is running is how we're looking to the future for that
one. And then another question that I've actually received quite a bit in DMs is how do Mooncats in the JumpPort interact with sales platforms? And the answer is pretty simple. JumpPort is a staking mechanism. You can't list or sell your Mooncats while they are in the JumpPort. And so, the community definitely wanted us to come up with a staking solution to reduce the amount of available Mooncats on the marketplace. And so if you sort of see people staking into the JumpPort, we definitely view it as this is an asset that I intend to hold long term and do not sell, which is encouraging for us. All right, third part of the questions. So, the important part is, can I access my Mooncats purse while they are in the JumpPort? Things you can do: deposit items into your Mooncats purse, see what items are inside your Mooncats purse, review that Mooncats owned accessories as well as currently equipped accessories. Things you cannot do: continue using your Mooncat name service, sell your Mooncat, including depositing into liquidity pools or using it as loan collateral. You cannot take items out of your Mooncat's purse. You cannot buy, put on, or take off accessories, although much like the name service, that is for now. Stay tuned. For now, stay tuned. You cannot interact with projects that are only looking at your wallet for NFTs that you own. This will change over time. And two of the projects in particular we're having these conversations with is World Wide Web, Liquid Lands. Other projects have expressed some hesitation for the moment, in particular ZooDAO and the Defimons, but we are definitely having these conversations. They are ongoing. And we have basically told people that if Mooncats have to pick between their project and being staked, the chances that their project will be picked are slim. And that is definitely a motivator.
And just to clarify, and again, that the things you cannot do, to reemphasize it, of that you cannot do currently, only that first one, the sell your Mooncat or put it up on a marketplace, is the one that we as Ponderware will not do, or the JumpPort infrastructure does not allow changing that. The other ones are ones that now we're looking into can change over time within with whatever scope we want it to happen through portal interfaces.
Yeah, we were definitely having a conversation this morning about upgrading the Mooncat name service so that you can continue to use your ismymooncat.eth identity even when you're staked in, because that is really important to us. And we have heard from the community that is important to them. So know that that is something that will get addressed. And it is in the front of our minds. We were literally talking about it this morning. So I also, before I deep dive into the unlock mechanisms, is there any sort of questions on the questions that we have already put forward?
Lasagna Fun saying JumpPort not for those with commitment issues. You're gonna like the next portion then. I don't see anybody typing any questions. I think we're good to go.
Now that I've had a quick drink of water, the unlock mechanism. If you deposit into your Mooncat into the JumpPort, we recommend you stay active a minimum of once per year. The JumpPort's design premise is I want to actively do things with my Mooncat. And the nice thing is the design of the JumpPort is to always allow a Mooncat owner an easy exit from the contract, providing they haven't lost their keys. And Ponderware's keys as administrators and sort of any future DAO's keys as administrators is not all powerful. The keys to the JumpPort are conceptually similar to the keys we have to the accessories contract. Ponderware is not the owner of record for each individual assets. Your keys as MoonCat owners for your assets have more power than the Ponderware keys. As mentioned previously, the JumpPort contract is not upgradable. Whoop. Sorry, I just realized I went the wrong way. All right. The JumpPort contract is not upgradable, so Ponderware cannot expand its own rights. And I know that that is pretty important to people talking about security of staked assets. Now, the one thing that we can do is we can rescue Mooncats. And here's the way that this works. There is sort of these conversations about how do we onboard the next billion people into cryptocurrency. And the one thing that everybody's talking about right now, Vitalik to influencers to project owners to everybody, the one thing that we definitely have to start thinking about is there needs to be a method of fixing honest mistakes. And this is really important to Mooncats in particular because Mooncats are often a person's first NFT. And mistakes, even honest ones, can be brutal to people new to crypto. Literally just had to tell someone today, your Mooncat is gone from your wallet, and there is nothing that we can do about that. We have learned this the hard way because we have Mooncats with deep emotional value that are forever stuck in the acclimator. Also technically revalue. There's some 2017s in there, but like there are Mooncats that we simply cannot fish out of the acclimator. That it was like my dad gave this to me before he passed away, and just not being able to fix that honest mistake sucks. It sucks for them. It sucks for us. It makes us feel terrible to have to say no. So one of the things that we have done is there is a process to manually unlock a Mooncat. All of the steps of this process must be manually done. Each step is reviewed by humans, and it is incredibly slow. There is nothing up our sleeve. All of this unlock process is visible on the blockchain. This is one tool of many the administrators of the JumpPort have. So that's not just Ponderware, but other projects who will be utilizing the JumpPort as well. We really anticipate this unlock being the tool that we use the least frequently. It is also the slowest. It takes a year. So here is how this unlock process works. When a request comes to us, we ask the claimant a number of questions. And the one in particular that we need people to understand is, when did you lose access to your wallet? Because if we see transactions at any time after this point, the unlock process for that Mooncat is just straight up canceled. We can't bake logic into a smart contract that covers this, and I don't think we would want to. So this process must be done by an actual person. If someone comes to us and says, my brother owned a Mooncat, they staked it into the JumpPort, and now they have passed away, we would really make all effort to reach out to the original owner. This isn't a situation where, someone comes to us and says, I've lost my keys, give me my Mooncat tomorrow. That is not the way we want to handle this. And so Ponderware and any projects with input into the JumpPort will above all make a best effort to reach out to the original owner. And this includes, but is not limited to, a list of any Mooncats that are in the unlock process, push notifications, social media notifications, really anything that we can think of that is on-chain or off-chain, that we do now to inform people about what's going on in the Mooncats ecosystem would come into play. Because again, the end goal is always getting the Mooncat reunited with their original owner. So, one thing that we sort of have seen a little bit of conversation of is, well, doesn't that mean Ponderware can just steal all of my Mooncats in a year? Honestly, there is really no incentive for us to abuse the unlock function. And if we found another project was abusing it, that would be something that we can correct. There is no magic that lets Ponderware unlocked and owned Mooncat any faster. And even if our administrative keys were compromised, users would still have a year to retrieve their Mooncats prior to the unlock. Also, this puts our entire business venture on the line. Even if we started the unlock process on all of the Mooncats in the contract today, the monetary value of all of the Mooncats in the project would not make up for the lost trust value. Plus, in a year when they did finally unlock, who would buy them from us? The one thing that we want people to understand is if a Mooncat is improperly deposited, it can be rescued using these sort of functions. And Midnight, do you sort of want to explain how that works?
Sure. And so the technical piece of this is, and it kind of loops back to on the previous slide, it was the talk of, and I saw it commented on of, hey, what if, if someone says, hey, this address is dead, but then some other transaction happens on it. So one of the things about how smart contracts work, of how, writing a Solidity smart contract, you cannot write a smart contract that can see everything. Like, it is impossible to say in Solidity, hey, this address XYZ is owned by Midnight. I want to be informed as a smart contract of everything address XYZ does. That does not exist in Solidity as a programming language. The only thing Solidity can say is, if address XYZ comes and talks to me, here's how I'm going to react. So that idea of, well, we want to have some sort of process or procedure for if something else happens on the blockchain, we then need a human to actually bring that information back to the smart contract. The other way that can work to a disadvantage is within ERC 721, when you get down to the technical pieces, when you move an NFT that adheres to the ERC 721 standard, there's two different ways you can do so. In the base contract logic, there is a transfer from function and there is a safe transfer from. The idea is the safe transfer from, whoever it's going to gets informed that, hey, you have now something coming into you. That's because, I won't get into further technicals on that. People can ask for more if you want that one. The idea is the transfer from, if you're going to a human, if you're going human to human address, it doesn't really matter whether it's transfer from or safe transfer from. But if it's going to a smart contract and you use the transfer from method, the smart contract that now receives it doesn't get told anything. So there's a possibility if a Mooncat or any other asset gets moved into the JumpPort with the transfer from, the JumpPort wasn't actually told and it can't record the proper owner. So it would be then a floating asset owned by the JumpPort, but the JumpPort doesn't know whose it is. We as humans could see it, but because of the way that smart contracts work, if a human who made the choice to use the transfer from function, it is impossible for the JumpPort to know who did it. And so we've set up the logic where that then becomes part of the governance, that Ponderware can grab that Mooncat back out, and because we can see all the transactions as humans on the blockchain, we'll then return it to the wallet that sent it. Because we can't actually bake that into the contract, because that's the very nature of why those two functions are different. Right, and I guess, and the parallel to that of, we talked about the reason why some assets are trapped in the acclimator is because they accidentally used the transfer from. And because of the way the acclimator works and with ERC 998 functionality, we don't have that baked in where Ponderware can grab things out of that contract. They are then stuck because the contract doesn't know that it moved in. And it was unable to say, wait, you're doing it the wrong way. It was never informed, and which is why those are unfortunately stuck. The JumpPort is built in a way that if someone moves it in, we know it must have been a mistake and then we as Ponderware are setting up a policy that we will grab it and send it back to where it came from.
Also, we do presume these sort of transactions are honest mistakes and not a donation. But yes, it is great because we can follow up with users that transfer in this way. They might be new, they may need some education assistance, they may have used a tool that we weren't familiar with. Um, Doing it this way helps us troubleshoot how people make these errors in the first place, and that helps us just make better smart contracts. Um, any questions about the unlock mechanism before I jump into how other projects are using the JumpPort?
And as people are formulating questions on that one, just wanted to point out these are wonderful questions to have asked. The things that are coming out of these, I'm proud of the community in the sense of asking these questions is, as people say, the do your own research piece of know what you're getting into. These are great questions to ask, and definitely ones that you should understand what you're doing as you're getting involved with these contracts. So yes, definitely, I personally don't mind answering these sorts of questions because, yes, from my perspective, both as the developer and from the business sense, this is exactly what you should be asking before diving headlong into a smart contract. Know what it's doing, know what you're getting into, and what the scope of the things are.
Oh, then you're gonna love this one. So Lasagna Fund basically says he knows we have the legal chops to handle stuff properly through Ponderware. For example, we did the spaces on long-term estate planning. We have an eye towards validating a will or death certificate, for instance. But how would we comply with something like a court order? What is the process for warrants to, for example, seize a wallet's cats that are in the JumpPort?
That's an interesting perspective. As we were truthful when we said we can, if it is an owned cat, we cannot grab it faster than a year. And so even if Ponderware were ordered and it complied to say, okay, we're going to start the withdrawal process for MoonCat 1289, which is my MoonCat, the owner of that MoonCat has a year to withdraw it, and Ponderware can't stop the owner from withdrawing it. So that would be an interesting thing for a court to order us to do because we can't get it any faster than a year. And during that year, the owner, as mentioned, has more power than us. They can withdraw it at any time.
So you heard it here first. Midnight says you have a year to flee the country.
To flee the JumpPort.
You have a year to flee the JumpPort.
Yeah, and that's one of I'm like validating a will or death certificate. I mean, that's part of also the reason why Ponderware as a team is also Ponderware LLC, a company, seeing the benefit of the effort of straddling the line to being a traditional company as well as just a Web3 team. Yeah, that as we are a legal entity, being able to work within things like that does give us some more flexibility for actually getting to the nitty-gritty of will verification and whatnot.
And I mean, it's tricky because we have plans in place for how to address this stuff, but the law surrounding NFTs is really young. And these questions are going to be eventually tested in court. And the answers that we give you today are the best answers that we can put forth. We can't withdraw any faster. That is 100% the truth. That will not change. But, if there ends up being a radical shift in the law that we are required to comply with, things may change. Although I do not foresee that happening anytime in the near future. And if it did, we would probably have a MoonCat Monday that would be specifically dedicated to it to help the community understand the changes.
Yeah, definitely an eye towards sustainability here. Faval says, I did this wrong. I just aped in. There's no wrong because we are tracking early apes. So you never know. Asterix.
And so we did want to touch a little bit upon how other projects are using the JumpPort as sort of a preview to the things that Mooncats can potentially look forward to. We definitely work hand in hand with Starcade. Ponderware writes all of their smart contracts. We have, meetings with them very regularly. I think almost all of us own Starcade fighters and have experienced the way that they are using the JumpPort. And so we are taking notes because we are totally stealing their homework. So giving an idea of how other projects are using the JumpPort, at the moment, you can stake in a Starcade fighter and you can train with them. And that, in fact, reflects permanently on a Starcade fighter. And so one of the things that we are definitely looking ahead to is, all right, now that we have the JumpPort and things can happen inside of the JumpPort, what might that mean for a MoonCat's metadata? And all of this stuff is things that we are noodling on and that we will be getting feedback on from the community. So keep in mind that none of this is set in stone. This is all pretty malleable, and there will be ways to get input on this stuff. But in the future, mooncats could be distinguished by factors directly influenced by the JumpPort. And in fact, anybody can do this. It is all on chain. And, you know, one of the things that we love about the mooncats community is seeing how many tools came out of the rediscovery that were just made by people. You know, MoonCat Pro was made by Dan long before he joined the Ponderware team. Baki Puba has made a couple of tools for Mooncats, and there's all sorts of stuff out there. There was like a third-party marketplace that was specifically for Mooncats. And so all of these things sprung up from the community and the love of the community. So, you know, we are excited to see who builds the Gravball sports decks, where you can see all of the statistics of each Mooncat and their journey to become a Gravball champion. But as sort of a practical example of things that we are thinking about is metadata that reflects the number of Gravball skills that a Mooncat has, matches entered, won, or lost, MVP accolades, experience and levels, and all of this stuff is things that we are continually brainstorming on, and will have sort of a more solid foundation in the future. But if you have specific things that you really would love to see reflected in a Mooncats metadata, if you have strong feelings that none of this stuff should be reflected in the Mooncats metadata, now is the time to start having these conversations. The thing that I'm sort of excited for is we can also use the metadata to pull together all cross-chain aggregation. And that is sort of pulling together all the disparate functions inside of the Mooncats ecosystem. Being able to tell if a Mooncat has their name service activated, for example. All sorts of stuff. If there's things going on multiple L2s, and we can reflect all of those things going on inside of a Mooncat's metadata. Any questions about metadata or traits before I continue?
We'll give it a quick second. We have some people typing.
Robert's totally complaining about us cribbing all of their work, isn't he?
He'll be fine. He'll get over it. Is Ponderware running a relayer node for all of these chains? Or is Ponderware running relayer nodes for all these chains?
Not at this point. Again, and that can be part of the research of as we investigate more L2s. If we then settle on one, yeah, definitely having a personal node for the UIs that we run to be able to go off of could be an option. That's one that, you know, the cost benefit analysis would still need to be assessed for that. At the moment, we are using some of the deployed infrastructures, Infura, Alchemy, sorts of things for getting data from these various chains.
Any other typies?
It looks like we are all set to move forward.
Cool. And then, of course, last but not least, Grav Ball. Woohoo! So with the JumpPort now in place, we have turned Midnight and Mark's coding prowess towards Grav Ball. The initial gameplay smart contracts have been internally verified. They are not yet published. As soon as they are, and as soon as they are verified, we will be putting pinned links in the Gravball and Lootprints channel. And as sort of a general reminder, for beta testing Gravball, we will be opting in Mooncats that have both a Lootprint and a MoonCat pop in their purse. Now, don't panic. If you've deposited your MoonCat already, that's not a problem. You can send purse items to Mooncats inside of the JumpPort. Also, a big shout out to Heavy for identifying a bug in the sending stuff to Mooncats inside of the portal bug. We fixed that, but we just like how the community feels super comfortable going, this isn't working, can you please fix it? And we go, yep, that is a problem, we have fixed it, thank you for letting us know.
Mm-hmm. And also loops back to the idea of, as part of the reason why we're doing these in smaller discrete chunks is that it minimizes the number of variables of where a bug when a bug like this pops up, of where it might be, because we know it must be, JumpPort or purse. If we had waited until having, JumpPort and portal and L2 and Gravball and staking, sorts of things, it makes it a whole lot more complex for both people to report the bugs and also to track them down and fix them. So, yes, these sorts of things are how we can continue to iterate as we go.
All right. That is the end of our time today, and we appreciate all the Mooncatters that come to each Mooncat Monday. We just love this ethos of fur, not floor. We like how sort of the concept of a Mooncat stablecoin went from a complaint to a point of pride, and we appreciate you all sticking with us through thick and thin, and downturns and upturns, and all of the insanity. Going to open up the floor to broader questions in terms of Gravball and the JumpPort or project stuff as a whole.
So fire anything out into the Mooncats Monday channel here. Hopefully get a chance to address it. Then we'll wrap up.
I think we are going to do a much deeper dive into sort of game strategies when there is a game that we can specifically point to. But I think that we've talked about the fact that your Mooncat's coat color and pattern and all of the hue of your Mooncat is all going to be relevant. One thing that I think we haven't talked about yet, and I think is sort of some fun alpha, is we haven't talked about offense and defense in a game yet. Do you want to cover that a little bit, Midnight?
I think, we have referenced a little bit of you will be playing, you as the humans, the Ethereans, will be playing the role of coach. And yes, the offense versus defense is one of the actions that you could take, or mainly nudging your Mooncat of how aggressively to be defense or how aggressively to be going on the offense piece of it there as the game progresses. And it will be, as the mechanics are looking at the moment, at least for the beta piece of it, dependent on how well your Mooncat will listen to your coaching, can depend on a few factors, partially your loot print and partially your Mooncat's attitude, on how it decides to influence that or go with those suggestions of go more on defense or go more on offense.
Now, we did release a couple teasers a few months ago that you can definitely hold side by side and get some hints on what what some of these other gameplay mechanics are. So I would definitely comb through those. Some other questions coming in. Question on the jump port time required to build out a loot print to a ship, and indeed loot print designs / upgrade possibilities in tandem with jump port. Is that something we should expect right off the bat? Is that something that's further down the road?
I think in terms of for the beta, we'll be using the loot prints as they are. That fits in with the lore right now. At least for the beta, it's going to be the Mooncats playing the game in a simulation, which works well with the loot prints themselves. As the game progresses towards a final state, there might be an upgrade from the loot print to the actual ship itself in that process, but I'd say not before the beta of the game piece of it.
There is going to be an upgrade to the loot prints contract to actual ships, both because that makes sense in terms of lore and because there is an issue with the loot prints contract that makes it working with the global offers that a lot of these platforms are rolling out a little fudgy. And so there is a loot prints upgrade coming. The when is a little fuzzy.
Yep, that's one of where, just when it fits into the priority queue for what both the community is interested in and what Ponderware can provide.
Lizani says the co-pilot feature for JumpPort sounds very cool. Sure, somebody could make a rental contract for new players to potentially try. We want to offer as much choice as possible. Yep.
All right. Any other lingering questions? Do we have any typies?
I don't see anything. I think we're good.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We always appreciate seeing all of your awesome faces for MoonCat Mondays. The next MoonCat Monday is a little bit up in the air at the moment because we have some vacations that are coming down the line. As soon as I have a date, which I will probably finalize next week, I will shoot that out in our announcements channel. But thank you, everybody. And if we didn't address a question, feel free to tag Tuss, myself, or Midnight in the MoonCat Mondays channel, and we will be able to asynchronously answer those.
Great. We'll try to get this posted as soon as possible for any latecomers and for anybody to link this out to help answer questions.
Fantastic. We will see everybody again in the near future.
Thank you all.
Talk to everyone later.